You should stop everything you're doing and chase girls. Now before you click off this video, let me explain why. When you first get into the self-improvement and self-help space, you're gonna come across the same terms over and over again. Monk mode, ghost mode, grind, like all this stuff where you're told basically, if you want to achieve the goals that you want to achieve and you want to be this hyper successful man, you want to be good with girls, you want to be wealthy, you want to be in good shape, you should forget the girls, focus on the business, focus on the gym, and the girls will follow. Now that is true to an extent. I got into this space when I was 16, 17 years old. I'm now 24, and I am so grateful that I didn't follow that advice. And why is that? When I was that age, I could barely hold a conversation with a man or a boy, let alone a girl. I couldn't look anybody in the eyes. I had zero confidence, zero self-esteem. I had no basic conversation skills. I basically didn't know how to function as a normal human being. Why was that? I was your typical fat, shy kid who missed out. I never socialized, I never had many friends, I missed out on a lot of experiences. So when I got to 16, 17, that shit caught up on me, and I was now in a place where I was like, fuck, I can't talk to anybody. And if I had followed that advice of going ghost mode, going monk mode, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. The reason why I became who I am is because I had a period in time where I focused on getting girls. For me, that was very beneficial for several reasons. The main reason is that it taught me to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Now, the reason why most guys can't talk to girls, can't approach girls, is because they're scared of rejection, they're scared of that discomfort, they're scared of the unknown and what might become if, you know, they go and chat to a girl and she goes, no, you fucking loser, go away, which will never happen, by the way. When I was that age, I was already in good shape. I'd already been doing the gym for the last 3-4 years because that is the one thing that I've always had, but I still couldn't socialize. So imagine I had gone ghost mode, gone monk mode until this age I am now. Imagine I was really wealthy right now and had reached all my monetary goals by this age because I'd focused so much on those things. Great, but what if I couldn't talk to anybody? What if I couldn't even chat to another man properly? I don't think I would have reached these goals or had the success that I've had now if I hadn't have had a period of time where I did focus on girls, because you become better at socializing, you become better at flirting, you become better at reading people, you're just better under pressure, because when you're with a man, like, you don't fancy him unless you're gay. If you're straight, you don't want to get with a guy, so that the same amount of pressure just doesn't apply to you. Whereas when a girl's in front of you and you're trying to sleep with her and you have to entertain her, you're going to act a certain way and you're going to have to learn to act a certain way. And these creators who tell guys to go monk mode, go ghost mode, yes, it's great advice when you have a baseline level of experience and you've had that scratch itched. For me, because I'd had no experience, I needed to scratch that itch. And to be honest, that scratch will never be itched, but at least you can think back to those experiences and go, right, I need to stop thirsting over girls. I've done this before, I know what it's like. But when you've not done these things and you've not had these experiences, you're seeing all these Insta thoughts online, you're seeing porn, whatever else it is you're consuming, you're going to be very thirsty to have these experiences. And this is one of the issues that I find with NoFap. When you haven't came in a long time, or you haven't ejaculated in a long time, you haven't watched porn, you haven't touched yourself, I find that rather than it being this massive benefit to your life, I find that I become hyper focused on this stuff because I'm that deprived. It wouldn't be the same now because I have sex, but when I was 16, 17, I was not touching myself, I was not watching porn, but I also wasn't seeing any girls. So I was just fully in monk mode. I was fully deprived, smashing the gym, wasn't working on a business, but I was doing everything else in that regard, and it fucking killed me because I became so hyper focused on that thing that I couldn't have. I became a bit weird, to be honest, a bit seedy, because it made things even worse. Any anxiety and nervousness I had around girls was times 10 now because I had no outlet. I was just so full of sexual energy. It was fucking ridiculous. And that's not to say that no fap and no porn doesn't have its place. I think most men, if not all men, should do it. Definitely no porn, but when it comes to no fap, I think you should just replace that with a girl if you can. That's the ideal scenario. But going months and months without touching yourself and not coming, I think that is a problem as well, because Mo Plates One Days did a cool episode on this when he said that it's like you're training your brain to not need it. Like when you're starving and your body's not had food for so long, what happens? You forget about food, you forget it's a thing. Same can happen with that. Like, do you want to train your brain to forget that sex is a thing, to not be aroused by women? It's not really what you want to do. If you're starting out on this self-improvement journey and you've had a level of experience with girls, then fine, go ghost mode, go monk mode. But if you're like the average teenager, the average man now who has had no experience, then I think you should dedicate a period of time where you get better at approaching girls, you get better at talking to girls, you get confident with girls in scenarios, you go on dates, and you build that foundation, because I think there's nothing but benefits to having the knowledge that you can do those things. I used to think that I was a pretty extreme example of somebody who'd been deprived as a kid, who'd missed out on these experiences, but the more that I learn about this stuff and the more I get into the stuff, the more I realise this is really common. This is an experience shared by most young men these days. I think it's only a small proportion of men who are active, who are socialising a lot, who are having these experiences. The reason why I'm in this space now and the reason why I've made content and I've done so well is because I've had experience. There's a thing called paralysis by analysis where you consume all this content, all this theory, you learn about all these topics, you watch all this self-help self-help stuff, you read the self-help stuff, you try and consume as much knowledge as possible, thinking that it's going to set you up to be the perfect high-value man, so you can go out there and achieve these things that you want to achieve. But what you don't realize is, if you don't put those things to practice, it means absolutely nothing. You have to go out there and put these things to use and use them. Otherwise, they're gonna vanish from your brain. And that is the issue I had. I consumed so many books, watched so many videos, listened to so many podcasts, but I didn't actually put them to use until I went to uni, when I realized I wanted to have these experiences and I wanted to start meeting girls. So what did I do? I made it a priority of mine. I started meeting anywhere from 1 to 4 girls a week. That sounds extreme, but because of that, I now have this plethora of experience where I can think, yeah, I know how to act in this situation, in that situation. I know how women behave. I know how men behave. A lot of people criticize the content that I make and similar creators, but until you've had a lot of experience, none of it clicks, none of it makes sense. It's not until you have had a lot of experience and you start dating multiple women, you start going on multiple dates, having these experiences, that you think to yourself, oh, that makes sense now. But like I was saying about dates and girls, I get it now, that makes sense. And then you start talking about it and then people can relate to it, but they don't understand it the same way. The reason why I can talk on these things and I understand things is because I've had the experience. Being able to cold approach people and talk to strangers and hold a conversation and flirt with people and be charismatic, they're all very important but basic human skills that most people don't have. And I guarantee you're not going to get them from chatting to your mates who are the same gender. You're not going to get them from chatting to random men. If you're a straight male, you need to go out there and chat to girls to get these experiences. And the knock-on effect of that is it will spread through into all areas of your life. That's why I've made the videos saying don't settle down until you've got a body count of 50, until your mid-20s, mid to late 20s, if not even later than that, because you're not going to have the experience necessary to understand situations and different dynamics and know how to act and respond. Having these experiences with girls is one of the most primitive things that you can do. And do you want to be the 30-year-old guy who's never had this experience, who's still a virgin, who can't talk to a girl, who doesn't know what to say, who can't hold a conversation, who's that far behind when it comes to things romantically and sexually because he thought he had to go ghost mode for a decade and work on himself? I know that might seem like an extreme example, but look at MGTOW. Men are actually going their own way because they're being rejected so much. When really, if you had a small period of time where you worked on yourself in the gym, you became the most attractive version of yourself, you started approaching these girls and going on dates and having these experiences, you would get it. You would understand things. You wouldn't feel the need to thirst over these girls because you will have had these experiences. No matter how jacked you are, how successful you are never going to be secure in yourself unless you've had these basic primitive experiences. Even though you are and you should have a greater purpose than getting girls, it's always going to be your core being. We're all human. We're all driven by our biological wants and needs, and we're always going to want to sleep with girls and have these experiences. That is what it means to be human on a basic level. And if you're not fulfilling those things, you're never going to feel accomplished as a man, especially because what is the trademark of a high value man? What is the trademark of a man who's very successful, who's very comfortable and secure in himself, and who's gotten all these things that he wants? It's a man who gets women, a man who's surrounded by women, a man who doesn't have to work for these things anymore. And chances are, if you're a young man, you're probably very obsessed with this thing right now. You're probably very obsessed with girls and women and having those experiences. So what should you do? You should have those experiences and go out there and get better at those things so you can scratch that itch and then focus on the other things in your life. Of course, you should always be doing the gym alongside this. You should always be thinking about, what it is you want to do in the future and goals you have in businesses and whatever else. But if you're that obsessed over girls, go and get with some girls, go on some dates, have these experiences, feel good about yourself, build that confidence up in your mind so that you know that you can do this thing if you need to. If I hadn't have had that period in uni when I did date and sleep with a lot of girls, I wouldn't be the person I am today. The reason why I can be so cool and chill is because I've had those experiences. When a really fit girl walks by me, I'm not flustered because I've had those experiences. I've approached girls before. I've done this. Whereas if I hadn't have done those things and I went ghost mode and monk mode, I'd be an insecure little bitch. I wouldn't know how to act. I wouldn't feel comfortable in my skin. Knowing that I can attract women and speak to women, I'm very secure and comfortable in myself. And that's a big foundation of who I am, where my self-esteem and my confidence comes from. When I go on a date with a hot girl and people stare at me and stare at us, I feel good because I'm like, yeah, this is my girl. This is the level of girl I'm able to attract. But it hasn't always been that way. It takes a long time, a lot of years of practice and work on yourself to get to a point where you can attract these really attractive, gorgeous, high-value women who give you what you want. Because when you first start out, you're going to settle for whatever's there. You're going to be a bottom feeder and you're going to get with the girls who aren't on your level, who aren't as attractive, but they do because they'll give you certain experiences. Do that, work on yourself, and then in a few years' time, you will have access to these women who you are truly fulfilled by and who you want to spend time with. You'll know if you're dating high-quality women because when you sleep with them, do you want to stay with them? Do you want to spend time with them? When you date these girls and you see these girls that you view as meh, you're not going to want to spend much time with them. As soon as you've gotten what you want, which you can guess what that is, you're going to want them gone. Whereas with the higher quality, the more attractive girls, you're not going to feel grossed out. You're going to want to spend time with them and you're going to want to give your energy to them, that's a sign that you've attracted a high quality woman. So if you're on this journey and you're desperately wanting to have these experiences with women, have them. Don't feel bad about it. Go out there, do your thing, bust a nut, and then you can focus on the rest of the more important things